Welcome into the crypto bunker. Today, I wanted to just share my thoughts on the market right now. Obviously, as things are crashing pretty good here, and we have finally reached the levels that I've been talking about for multiple months now. Obviously, here and there, I've been saying DCA, DCA. Obviously, this is another DCA. This may be another what I want to say is basically none of this financial advice, obviously, like always, but I do think it's interesting that if we look back in time at Bitcoin on a logarithmic scale, when it did bottom here in January 2015, um, this was actually a stock crash that happened here and a reversal of the stock market. This was the Fed raising rates and then reversing. Okay, so they reversed. This was March 2020. So obviously we know what happened there. And the Fed printed a ton of money. Now we have the Fed reversing course, taking money away and raising rates and not going back on raising rates, essentially. So they have to raise rates more now because inflation is so bad. And so Bitcoin really has acted as a hedge against monetary policy, not exactly inflation, because we can see, obviously, the Fed pivot sent it up, the Fed printing money sent it up, but now the Fed taking money away is taking it down. So really it's a hedge, I guess, against monetary debasement, not necessarily inflation, CPI inflation, which makes sense because it's a digital good. It's really more for the deflationary world of like tech, AI, automation, things like that. So I did want to cover, obviously, taking it from this wick down here in the January 2015 to this wick here, we get a target here of like 16.5, something like that. So again, we could go there, we could wick down to that, right? Just like we wick down here. The only question that I have is that what is the catalyst this time? Because all the other bottoms, we had some type of catalyst or event or Fed pivot, but this time the Fed is only going to get stronger in terms of their rate hikes. At least that's what they say. But the bond market is in disarray. So it's a really kind of a mess for the Fed, and for them to, they're sort of screwed here. And we can look at the bond market real quick, because if people don't understand, like, yields are up, bonds are down. People don't really get that like bonds can sell off. They can. And the only reason they went up here in March 2020 is because we had deflation. So deflation is good for bonds, which we've had for many, many years. As you can see, we've been in a bond bull market. But now we are crashing and we're basically touching long-term support here on the bonds. But if the Fed keeps raising rates, the bonds aren't really going to catch a bid, especially if we continue to see inflation. So it's really not a good situation. Here's a stock randomly. I'll just throw this up there real quick, but it's a uranium stock, UEC, that I think uranium is a good sector to be in. Obviously, BlackRock Silver, I've talked about that. I've talked about First Majestic Silver. There's many other companies that I have on here that I look at, but if we look at the total market cap, we are hitting the 200 SMA here. I do expect, like I said before, for this to go down to around 530, which really some of these coins are going to have to come down around 50% more for this to happen. Polkadot's holding up really well. It's actually basically it's only a little bit below the lows here, which is interesting. I do still think it has to get to 547 But I think it's because a lot of these DOT tokens are locked up in contracts in these parachains. So they're basically all locked away. They can't be sold. They're just staking. So really, it's not something that's getting sold off here, which I am taking note of. I do think that Polkadot has a lot of backing in the future from funds and things like that. So I do think it's something to scoop up potentially here. ETH, wow, below the 200 week SMA. ETH is basically right now being used as the primary liquidation target for a lot of, because it is the collateral of the system. People that say Bitcoin's the collateral, it's really not. I do expect ETH to get massive buys at $1,000 here, at least in the short term. I do believe there are people who are looking to get it to that price so that they can buy large amounts. Because if you can put $32,000 into Ethereum and become a validator, I do believe that is, something that I would do if I had liquid amount of that much cash. But personally, I don't, and I'm not really trying to catch a falling knife. And I do think there's a chance that we could come down to $400 here on Ethereum. I did throw up some long-term trend lines that I guess I would say in the future, when we look back and we say, like, what is the trend, the trend line, sort of like what Bitcoin has. We're probably going to look at something like this, and you can see how these lines are parallel as well, which I like to see kind of the similar to Bitcoin at, and if Bitcoin goes to 15, 16K, I do believe that is a $400 Ethereum. I'm not saying that's going to happen right now. I do think that we're going to rally pretty hard off of this. We probably come back up to, whatever, 1500, 1700. And then we chop around, I don't know. And then maybe we get like a final wick down to these levels. I don't really know. I'm not going to try to call a bottom. I do think that at this point, we're going to have a long-term bear market because a lot of these institutions were fed pretty much terrible tokens by a lot of these VC funds. So, think like the worst, not the worst, but just random tokens, not even ETH and Bitcoin. Like a lot of these institutions, they basically been sold, trash. And I do think that that's going to take a long time to shake out. We have the Celsius. By the way, Celsius is going to be liquidated on their Bitcoin position at 17,000 now. So if we do get that low, they're going to be liquidated, and then that's probably where we'll wick to 16 or 15K. And the whales are doing their best to liquidate Celsius at this point, which is pretty funny. Obviously, hopefully none of you guys are on Celsius. If you follow my Twitter, you would not be on there. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in a video or not. I apologize if I didn't. Obviously, things that I don't mention, I don't, recommend. I never mentioned Luna before, really, or UST or anything. So, anyway, hopefully you guys got something out of the video. I just wanted to give a quick shout out for my thoughts here, and have a great night.